All right, June 9. That is the date for State of Origin 1 after Queensland got the job done in surprising circumstances last year. This time, can the Blues come back and reverse that? Where that first Origin is to be played? At the moment, Brent Reid, we believe it to be Townsville, and that's most likely.
Yeah, obviously it hinges on the talks between the NRL and the Victorian government, whether the Victorian government release the NRL from that contract. But the sense is, at the moment, early next week, maybe Monday, they'll make a decision to move the game to Townsville, yes.
And once moved, who will be the players running out in the maroon and blue jerseys? Gerds, why don't we start with you, with your New South Wales Blues side for Game 1?
Well, I have to say it's probably changed over the last 5 or 6 weeks, just based on
suspensions.
I think the way, a little bit of that, but an injury.
Yeah.
But I think also just watching how the game's developed and how we're sort of settling into the new rhythm of the season. So I've gone with. I was actually going to go with a real big, aggressive running side, because I think we sort of fell away from that in the third game last year when we went up and we lost that in at Suncorp, and I probably would have tried to rectify that. I had sort of Jack in there at 6, a big running 5/8, but just watching the way the Penrith guys and that are going at the moment and the lateral nature of the way the game's been played with those successful sides, I've changed it up a little bit. So I've got Teddy at the back, I've got the Fox and Brian To'o on the wings.
Yep.
I've got Tommy Turbo out there on the right with Brian, and I've got Latrell on the left there with the Fox. What an exciting couple of edges they are.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone with Jerome Luai, who'll play left with Latrell, and I've got Nathan on the right.
You've stuck with the Penrith combination in the halves.
Yeah, look, I've actually stuck with the whole Penrith combination here, Tone. I've got Paulo up front with, I've gone Liotta because House is out. So I think he's done a fantastic job this year.
Is Payne Haas officially out?
I think he might make it, Gertz. They put a release out yesterday saying he's looking...
Well, pencil one of those guys in.
Chance.
Yep.
And then I've gone Tyson Frizzell because it's a pretty young pack, and I think even though Tyson's form isn't great at Newcastle at the moment, he's just a guy that you know what you're going to get, and he's a guy that I think in those sort of situations around Origin and Test matches that you just want to sit next to, and he'll give him a lot of confidence. I think Liam Martin's done enough to make that left spot his own. Now that Crichton's out, and then Isaiah Yeo. So and I've gone Api Coruscant at dummy half, and I just think
gone.
I just think keeping those core guys from the Panthers together that have been working so well and so successfully
Why
all
don't you
year
just pick
together.
the entire Penrith side, Gertz?
Well, I think you kind of need to pick players that are playing with a lot of confidence and in form at the moment, Reedy, and those guys, and especially with that combination with Api Coruscant on those two halves, making sure that everyone knows what they're doing, they're all on the same page, can take a while. And if you went with Damien Cook and then you put Murray at 13 and you had Jack at 6, it's a more running side. And I just think at the moment we need to sort of not take Queensland on through the middle so much and try and play the edges and play to the strengths of this New South Wales side, which I think is in the backs and are on the edges. So I'd go with a side like that. And on the bench, I'd have Jack White and I'd have Campbell Gillard, Jake Trbojevic and Cam Murray.
Okay. It's kind of a test. That's the big good question you're saying about picking the entire Penrith side. Obviously, some aren't eligible.
I think there's 6 or 7 in there, yeah.
Yeah, if you could, what is the big difference? This is that test of, Origin's a different arena. If you pick basically a club side that's just playing great footy and beating everybody, put them in an Origin arena and some of them are not played there at all, how different is it? If they're just wearing that blue jersey suddenly, is it a great deal difference?
Oh yeah, it's definitely it's a rising class. You're playing the best of the best on the other side, and I don't think that'd work, Tone. But I think you can take the guys that are in really good form, and that there's certain players that you just know are going to be able to step up to a certain level. And I think these guys that we've just named have all shown that they can. Appy hasn't played at that level before, but he's played in grand finals. And Brian To'o, I think he's just going to he goes about his business on a weekly basis. And Jerome Luai was in the system last year, didn't get an opportunity, but with his form at club level and how comfortable those guys look together. And I think with Isaiah Yeo as well, he just gives them so many options, playing out the back and playing short and long off a first receiver and allowing those halves to get that little bit wider. It works for them so well. They do it so regularly for Penrith. I don't see why they couldn't try and apply it at State of Origin level.
Christian, I assume you'll be in Paul Green's. We know that. I assume you'll be in Reedy's team as well. What do you make of Gerds' New South Wales side that you would be facing?
Yeah, no, it's a really strong team. A few of those guys, Brian To'o, I think he's so important to that Penrith team and starting their sets. He's got the size of the bloke's legs, he's a tough man to tackle. But yeah, and I think there's a real, I suppose, variety of styles there with Coruscant and Cook. Cook's obviously a very dominant ball runner. Hasn't been able to get out too much this year, but Coruscant's a very crafty guy. I certainly know at the Storm, Harry Grant, every week he'll come in and he'll be cutting clips up of Coruscant and just watching how he manipulates the marker defenders and gets defensive lines going. So he's top of the game in terms of that. So yeah, it's a really strong team, and I suppose that's the problem with New South Wales. They've got so many bloody good players. You got to try and pick them and find out who's going to work the best together.